Hello everyone, this is Fabio and welcome to the Clever Tester. So today I'm going to show you how you can leverage AI in your software quality assurance uh, by using a set of AI assistants, so a pipeline of AI in your BDD approach. First of all, we are going to explore a little bit some base concepts. Then I'm gonna present you what's the proposal with this pipeline. So a summary of what we are gonna do. We're gonna cover different customized GPTs that I've built using OpenAI ChatGPT. And then I'm gonna give you a quick demo of everything and how we can run this pipeline manually. And after that, I'm also going to show you how you can do this automatically using the recent feature from OpenAI that is the GPT Agent. So this can automate the whole thing. In the end, I'm going to present to you some conclusions about the results. I'm going to talk about some limitations and what could be the next steps. I'm going to also leave some reference links that you can check for further information. So let's start. Why is it important, or why you would be interested into knowing or into optimizing your BDD approach, right? That's one of the questions. So basically, a BDD offers you a unique ability of getting things right since the very early stages in software. And that's why this is so important for the quality of your product in the testing assurance, because when you test early, so when you start from requirements, actually, that's where your test should start. It's cheap to fix any mistakes. So that's a little bit about BDD. Example mapping is basically a technique that proposes a structured way of you writing acceptance criteria for your requirements. So that's basically it. It's just a very efficient way of writing those acceptance criteria using a triplet, I would say, that is the rule, which actually you want to test, the examples that will provide concrete ways of achieving that test result. And also, there are some questions that originated that acceptance criteria. This will get more clear as we go through the examples, and I'm going to show you how that looks like in practice. Secondly, I'm going to just introduce you very high level view again about the LLMs or models, AI models. Basically, in here is just like the concepts that you need to move forward. Okay, I'm not gonna deep dive in any of these concepts. It's just so you get the idea, so you can keep following. So first, I'm gonna give you this high level view of a natural language comprehension ability that these LLMs excels in. So basically, their strongest uh, job, let's say, or their strongest quality, the most relevant thing that they offer to us, the biggest value, let's say, is that they're really good in understanding natural language. So what that means that it makes it really interesting because it makes it really fit to propose in this case where we are just trying to get these AI agents to help us during requirements to get our software or our tickets well refined, let's say. And this is all about conversations, right? It's all about speculating what you need as requirements in a given user store, how you define the acceptance criteria, how you define the test case. So that's why it makes it so well fit for purpose, because the biggest value that it has, it's actually exactly what we're looking for if you want to optimize, streamline this process of software quality assurance in your projects. So basically what LLM does is that it is really good in predicting the next token. So you give it a sentence or give it a prompt, it's going to go to its knowledge base and it's going to come back with the right answer for you based on what he thinks is the best next token. So it goes like word by word. Um, these models, they pass through some training stage. That's important to you to know that basically in a very high level view, there is a training internet documents where this is gonna make all the chunk of the knowledge base, the biggest chunk of the knowledge base for your LLM. And after that, also the training is carried on with like real prompts from people. So they're called like labelers, where they're going to introduce lots and lots of prompts where a human is interacting with a um, agent and is just giving you the clarity for this LLM, for the base LLM, basically to become more sound more like human. So that's where it gains this ability. The second training stage, where it just reads all these conversations, and then we got what we actually call an assistant. Because first with the LLM, when you just do the first training stage, you have like the model. So you have just LLM model that's capable of retrieving internet documents, but it's not interacting with you like in a natural language. And at this point, when you train this to be an assistant with like real prompt examples, then it becomes the assistant. All these LLMs or these models, they have basically a context window, and that basically means that it's your short memory. So everything in the context window, it can remember and use it to give you the best answer, right? And this context window has a specific size, so it's not unlimited. So it has just a side limit, so you cannot just upload like tons of data into this context window, because the agent is just gonna get lost. Basically, there is one way to increase your agent knowledge that is being explored now. That's called RAG. So it's retrieval augmented generation. And what it basically does is that it allows your LLM to make a search in real time in some database. So imagine that you want updated data for your LLM to work with, or you have proprietary data. So you put them in this vector database, and through this process of RAG, the model will be able to just go and find the best results for the prompt that you make. So it makes it very powerful, because now you have access to a lot of knowledge that your model wasn't trained at, but it can consume in like a context window. It's not, it doesn't go exactly like that, but you can understand that it's able to get just the right bits of information that are important to answer that query. So it can access a lot of data. So it's different if you have a context window, let's say, and you're just giving information via prompt. Like I said, there is a side for this prompt, because the model cannot calculate or iterate through a big chunk of data. However, if your model is using RAG, it can then deal with lots of information at the same time, because it's just going to predict what are the best also matches in terms of documentation. So it makes your model even more powerful. So one important thing about this RAG is that OpenAI implements these custom GPTs that you can create, and I'm gonna give you some examples of that, in which it uses some sort of RAG by uploading files. So it creates this knowledge base uh, with the uploaded files, and then it can do the search of the most relevant documents in that base. However, if you need to update your knowledge base, let's say you have a documentation that needs updating, or you want to get the latest information from the internet, you have to manually go and change this, upload a new file, so it becomes part of the knowledge base. So we can call it roughly like a static RAG rather than the full RAG. So let's talk now about the proposal. So what I'm proposing here is a pipeline of agents consisting of custom GPTs created on ChatGPT that will do different jobs. Okay. First one is going to create an acceptance criteria. And we have also something that we call LLM as a judge, that will be the assistant that will be judging if the acceptance criteria is well written. And I'm going to show you some more details about that approach real soon. And after that, we are going to also have a documentation updating agent that is able to grab the feedback from what we call acceptance criteria cohesion. So this is another agent in which we just added the acceptance criteria. It's going to compare to the database of its knowledge base and compare and give you a score in the end of how close the documentation is from that acceptance criteria. And in case you need to update the documentation because the acceptance criteria has introduced new ideas, or the other way around, your acceptance criteria could be more complete and to be more compliant with your documentation, it's also going to give you that feedback. So this is the um, acceptance criteria cohesion agent. And also we have the documentation agent, because just to simplify, but you can use these like in various scenarios. The way I've done it here, I have a Python script that generates to me all the documentation that I upload to these agents as the knowledge base. So this agent particularly, what's gonna do is just gonna get that Python script and get the feedback from the cohesion agent and update your acceptance criteria or your documentation to match what that um, agent provided as evaluation. On the testing scenarios agent, what you're actually just gonna do is that we are gonna get that acceptance criteria that was evaluated against completeness, against like smart objectives of that acceptance criteria. Uh, it went through the documentation updates if necessary. It went through the cohesion feedback about the documentation. So finally, we have acceptance criteria that's very robust and tailored to our own documentation of our product. And now we can just create the testing scenarios for those acceptance criteria. So now I'm just gonna start the demo for you. I'm gonna show you the files that I'm using, and we are gonna explore what the concept of few shot prompting is and the chain of thought as well. And then we're gonna start running this pipeline. So just about the files, I have in here a folder with a bunch of sample files. They're not like real product files, but they are something that you'd find in any product documentation, let's say. So an access control matrix, a business description. In this case, our product is just a form submitment and approval um, product. So yeah, it's just a for example purpose. And you can find like different stuff like access control matrix. It's a part of the documentation in which you can, create, submit, or approve the form, and you can have different roles like admin, approver, user. So just to give you some information about our system, we can have the business description as well. Like I said, it's just describing this form system that I'm gonna use as an example here. And we have really, a bunch of files to simulate any files that you'd have in your documentation. But keep in mind that for this approach, without the rag, the documentation need to be really tailored to what your user story that you're gonna use the agents pipeline to help you with are. Okay, so if you have a user story in a particular field of your product, you're gonna want to upload only those documents that are related to that field and not your whole product documentation, either business descriptions or either technical documentation. Okay, so just keep that in mind. Um, so just going to the acceptance criteria file. This is important because you're gonna explain here two concepts that are applied to these agents. One being the few shot example, and the other one being the chain of thought. And basically they go side to side. So you can provide an agent with a step by step, that's called the chain of thought, of a verdict if that acceptance criteria is good or not. Okay, so I'm just teaching now what I'm starting here in my agent is just I'm teaching it how to produce good acceptance criteria. And I'm gonna use this both for the assistant that creates the acceptance criteria and for my judge as well. So both can learn about creating acceptance criteria. Uh, in this case, this is the chain of thought. So I used some metrics in here and I demonstrated how the metrics were or were not achieved. and a verdict about that prompt. So if it's failed or if it passed. And the few shot prompt basically is when we actually provide a simple prompt for our agent to learn. Okay, so teaching your agent with examples for your agents to learn from, but you don't necessarily need to provide the whole chain of thought. Using chain of thought really gives it a lot more power, because what we want in here and what we are actually doing with this document is just we are going to upload this to the knowledge base of our agent, so our agent now can understand and can become more specific. So we are just, instead of asking ChatGPT just, the regular assistant, we are creating a very specific assistant that has its meaning more tailored to the context that we need. So it's a lot better in doing this one job. So we're just, getting one thing that we really need and making sure that our agent is really good at doing that. Okay. So this is something about the acceptance criteria with example mapping. So I've just, added here a lot of the examples for the agent to learn from. One important thing is, like I mentioned, the example mapping technique. So basically, these are acceptance criteria that came after a refinement using that technique. So we have the rule, which is the acceptance criteria that we have, and we have examples that provide concrete information that will be then later used by our testing agents to actually write the tests. And we have the question that this rule and example are answering. So just gonna show you something here as well. In the We have also the workflow, so we can preview how our form serves works. This is just a sample preview of a workflow. So it's basically the user can send forms, can approve forms, and so on. I have also this Python script, and this Python script is just generating all the files that I've shown to you in the file explorer earlier. So yeah, this is what I'm gonna use to upload to ChatGPT. I have also the user story in here. So this is gonna be our starting point. And the user story is very simple. So I'm just gonna ask, as an admin, I want to be able to make other users admin so that the customer can grant admin privileges to other users. Now I will start with the pipeline. Let's deep dive into it. So first thing here, I have my acceptance criteria assistant. And like I said before, what it's gonna do is that's gonna take our user story. This assistant has instructions, and the instructions are really teaching this agent how to be really good at this work. So like I shown to you guys in the instructions, I've also attached to be part of the knowledge base of this agent the sample of acceptance criteria with the evaluation, so the complete few shot prompt with chain of thought. So this agent is heavily specialized in completing its task. So let's see how that works in practice. So now I'm just gonna upload the user story to this agent and let's see the output. I'm just gonna grab the user story, copy right here. So it already knows what to do with user stories. In here, there is a short description of the work that this agent's gonna do, and they're gonna hit send. Let's wait. You can see I'm using O4 Mini High. This is one model that actually has reinforcement learning that makes it kind of think about the answer before giving the results to the user. So that's what it's doing now. It's just telling us exactly what it's doing on the background. So basically, it's checking all the files, and then it's outputting right here for us the acceptance criteria that it thinks are the best to illustrate this user story using our example map technique that we instructed the agents to use, and also trying to be good at completeness, testability, smart goals, all that set of metrics that I shown to you guys early. So that's how it creates this. I'm just gonna hit preview. It doesn't work the whole time, but this time it worked, which is really great. So as that's one criteria for the feature make other users admin. So the question is, who can perform the promotion to admin? That would be one question for this refinement session, let's say. So the rule is only users with admin role can promote other users. So it gives you two examples, one from an admin trying to promote someone, and one from a user that's not an admin that's trying to promote someone else. Okay, so it just generated for me one, two, three, four different acceptance criteria. And also it provides in the end as per my instructions. This is all because of the prompts that I created as instructions of these custom GPTs. So yeah, we can see that it worked. It has some characters here, some stuff that came out from the model as well, and also here because it generates as a Python. But yeah, anyway, I'm just gonna go ahead and download it. So I've just downloaded the file, and now we are gonna go ahead and jump to the other agent, which I'm gonna demonstrate to you. This is not mandatory in this pipeline, okay, of getting acceptance criteria and your testing scenarios. You could jump straight from the first agent to the last agent, but I'm gonna show you how you can make sure that those acceptance criteria are good. So basically created an agent like I described it before that's gonna give scores to these rules based on correctness, testability, clarity, completeness, and smartness. And it's gonna also provide us with the chain of thought, so how it came with this judgment, and yeah, it's just gonna output to us. So basically, I'm just gonna send this in here, the acceptance criteria to the judge, and let's see what it does. All right, so I just uploaded the file. The model also, I'm always using the O4 mini high. That's the most advanced model so far available for this type of task. It's really good. It's the best that they have. And now it's just telling us again the rationale behind it, how it's thinking. And yeah, now it's just giving us the scores. So 5 out of 5 of for all the first rule. For the second rule, it scored a 4 out of 5 in completeness, and it tells us exactly what is missing. So this is what it understands that it was missing. Also, this one missed some information, so it just had like a 4 out of 5 score, and that's it. So in the end, it's just telling us that the scores, the final verdict is fail, and it's giving us the feedback. Okay. Also, this is outputting us in HTML with that feedback. So what I can do now is that I can get this feedback. I'll just copy this feedback. I'll go to the acceptance criteria chat, and I'm just gonna upload the file again for the acceptance criteria. And I'm also gonna save the feedback here. Okay, so I just saved this file as the feedback. Now I'm gonna go back to the acceptance criteria assistant, and I'm uploading the acceptance criteria that it outputted to me, and also I'm gonna upload the feedback file. And let's see how this differs from the first one. The instructions say that for anything that's technical, it should come in the bottom part. So you can see it's actually updating in real time with examples and with some of the guidance that the judge provided for this to be updated. Let's see if we can hit preview on this one as well. Cool, it worked. So this is the make other user admin v2. It already named it differently, which is nice. And it just added some more information. Probably all these error codes, they were not available before. So now it's just, being a little bit more specific because of the instructions. Okay. And also in the bottom part, we can see that there are more technical details now that were added because I don't want the acceptance criteria to stop being business driven and start being very technical. So we have to have also this consideration in mind because if we keep updating this and if we don't have any safe guards in here, what's gonna happen is that this agent is gonna provide you with acceptance criteria that pass the judgment, but also it might not be this sort of acceptance criteria in the level that you would like because we want the acceptance criteria to be something very high level that the team is gonna then create the concrete scenarios based on the examples using the feature files in which they can automate the test of that business behavior. So yeah, we don't want these to be very specific to technical details, but to provide the high level scenarios or high level examples. So the high level scenarios can be created to provide the functional test of that business rule. And also we want just the technical details here because then we can have, development also basing the software on this data and yeah, etc. It's gonna give you both basically. So acceptance criteria that suits your development and suits your testing as well. So this was just an example of how you can use these couple agents here to interact with each other. And now let's see the doc adherence judge because it has already all the documentation uploaded here. So all I'm gonna do is to upload the acceptance criteria right here. And this judge is gonna compare how close fit my acceptance criteria are from the documentation files that I previously uploaded that I showed to you guys. So basically it's gonna look in all the important and relevant files in here. They are the same that I uploaded in the model. And after those, after checking them, it's gonna give us its verdict. All right, what happened here is that I instructed the agents to consider two documents, acceptance criteria and the user stories. And it's saying it doesn't have the user story, it just has the acceptance criteria. So it's just asking me for the file before it can continue. I'm gonna just upload the user story as well. And what's interesting about this is because models can hallucinate sometimes, so they can make things up. We have instructed the GPTs and teach the GPTs the best as we could with our, our approach, but it can always happen. So that's why the judge GPTs are so important because the GPTs that originate the files for us or originate any documents or anything that will make a prompt might have failed in some aspects of it. So it might just have created acceptance criteria that has nothing to do with our form system or with our technical documentation in a way that it's not acceptable. So that's why we created this doc adherence judge. It has just created, so it's the output is quite interesting. So I'm just gonna copy the output in here. I've saved the judgment in this HTML file. Let's see how this looks like. Yeah, here we can have a good view of the chain of thought. So what the model thought in order to evaluate all the create all this metric evaluation for us. We can see that it succeeded in most of the files relationship. It also succeeded in this file, but it failed in some files. Let's take a read on this. So GraphQL schema JSON, it failed for one occurrence. So missing assign user role mutation referenced by the acceptance criteria. Let's take a look if the acceptance criteria actually references the assign user role. So I've just opened the acceptance criteria that we generated at the first step, and it does define as a rule in here for the roles. So I think this is where that feedback is coming from. So we have no user assignment role defined in here, and it was identified that this is missing from our documentation, which kind of makes sense. So we could just ask our documents to be updated accordingly, and that's what we are gonna do next. So I'm just gonna go to this doc update agent. Again, these steps are not necessary. You can go directly from the agent that creates you the acceptance criteria and then go to the testing scenario one. But this is just showing a complete pipeline workflow, and hopefully it's demonstrating to you how strong and how much value this whole pipeline of agents can deliver to you. So let me just add the feedback file. So I'll put just the judge feedback in here. And I'm also gonna upload my Python script the Python script I can find in here. And let's see what it does now. So this agent basically has this one task that is to get the feedback, get the Python script that generated documentation, and make sure it updates the script accordingly. Okay, here we go. After running the evaluation, it's just outputting the same Python script that I uploaded, but with updates to the parts of the documentation that it needs to update in order to evaluate if it's doing the change that we need. So basically, let's look after the things that were missing in the evaluation. So missing, for instance, user assignment role. Let's see if we can find this uh, role right here. So it's already, we can see that there is a correspondence here with the sequence diagram that it created for us. Let's just have a look at this. Just gonna edit this in here, and hopefully it will open the preview. So now it just did a preview of how you can change someone's role. So this is all about the role. So assign user role and publisher role changed. The role changes is consumed in here, and we have a notification that the role was actually changed. So it looks like it has added these to the documentation, the assign user role. So I come just all the way up in here, so we can find the number 5 is the graphical schema. Let's see if it has changed. So number 5, if we have the user roles in here, so we have submit form, approval submission, and we have assign user role. So I think it has done the job. So it has updated our documentation. If I output this documentation, we are going to create a new set, a completely new set of these files, which we could use eventually to update again to the knowledge base. Remember, we are using static reg in here. That is the only one that we have access to when using these custom GPTs from ChatGPT. So anytime that I need to actually update the information, I have to upload again to those custom GPTs. So I'm not gonna do that right now, but this is also something that you can understand that can keep evolving as your software evolves as well. So you can keep adding more user stories, more acceptance criteria, and then checking against your documentation and make the amends as necessary. So yeah, now let's just go to the last GPT that I want to show to you guys. So basically, this will get our acceptance criteria and create the testing scenario for us. I asked this to output the test scenario in a feature file using the Gherkin syntax for easy to be automated later by your teams, by your QA engineers, and so on. So let's just wait. It was real quick because this one just had the job to get the acceptance criteria and just create the feature file based on the instructions that I gave it. So my instructions were clear that you needed to use Gherkin syntax and not mix business driven scenarios from more technical driven scenarios, because we might get the business driven scenarios to be more part of our functional testing approach, and the technical aspects of the acceptance criteria can also be used, but more to guide the development than the testing of the business behaviors. So we can see right here that technical scenarios were created accordingly, in which we are, just checking specifics about everything. So I'm just gonna copy in here as well. I'm just gonna create a new file so I can save this, and you can see um, how it looks like. All right. Now let's go back to our agenda and let's preview. So I hope you have understand the pipeline, and I did this manual run. I showed you how we can use the judge to sort of fine tuning our results. So we would just get the feedback, update our acceptance criteria, update our documentation until the feedback is clear. And then we can give it to the testing scenario agent, in which it's going to create the testing based on the latest outcome. and it's going to split for us what is business driven behavior from what are the technical details. Both are going to be useful for our teams to develop and test our software. So if you keep iterating over that, you're going to get better and better on the results until you get like the best results. But then you have to do it all manually because, like I say, we're fine tuning the results. We can call it that way, but this is not using reinforcement learning. So this is another concept. Reinforcement learning is when you actually get this sort of feedback. You can do it in different ways using the LLM as a judge that we just applied right here as well, but using it in a way that's integrated to your model, so to your base model, and then the model can actually learn from that and can use that learning for all the new prompts that you make without you having to manually do it. So you just create a lot of files, as more examples as you can, provide to this judge. It's going to learn how to iterate, and it's going to learn how to work with it, and it's going to iterate, and then you can update the model with the best solutions, like give higher scores to the best solutions, and then the model will learn to keep providing you answers just like that. So we're not using any of these in here. So that's why we have this limitation basically about manually fine tuning the results, which also works. And now finally, I'm going to show you how you can do this in an automated fashion. So I have here a prompt that I can use for an agent that is available now in ChatGPT. So I'm just going to go ahead and copy this prompt, and I'm going to send right here to a new ChatGPT. And I'm just gonna use this agent mode right here. And this agent actually can perform tasks for you. It's some very recent feature that GPT just released. So yeah, let's see what it does with this pipeline. I'm not gonna show you the entire thing because it takes a long time. It's gonna set up the desktop, and then it's gonna consume the files or ask me to upload the files for it. And it's gonna ask me to log in my ChatGPT account. And after I log in, it will just start triggering all this pipeline of agents. So basically, I created step by steps in that prompt, and in each one of the steps, it's just telling what it needs to do. So basically, to upload the user story, and then to upload the. All right. So what actually happened here is that it got stuck in the login step. I think ChatGPT has added something on their login that doesn't allow the assistant or something automated to log in on ChatGPT interface. So it just keeps getting stuck in this page, and I cannot authenticate. So unfortunately, I cannot show you how this would progress. But basically, what it would do, it would just simply open the ChatGPT browser and start interact with my agents as per the prompt. So all that we have done manually could be done automated by using this feature from ChatGPT, but unfortunately we cannot demonstrate right now. So now we've reached out the conclusion. So about the results, the agents can perform really well the tasks, create acceptance criteria, evaluate an acceptance criteria, and guys metrics such as SMART goals of that acceptance criteria, completeness, testability, etc. And also can create a good Gherkin file for your features to be tested and include technical information that can be used by developers as well. So yeah, it shows that it has really good potential. Still, I would say you need a supervised approach to this. So it's not something that you can just trigger and forget at this point with the capacity that the models have, but it will eventually become better and better as these models are always evolving. In terms of limitations now, there are some glitches, like some of the files you've seen created. Sometimes they come with code that doesn't compile or with some weird characters in the HTML that aren't well interpreted by the browser. So you have to keep watching for this sort of glitches. The hallucinations, like I mentioned before, they are a very important part of this process. We have managed to reduce them a lot by the prompts that we added to our GPTs, by the instructions that we added, and by understanding and separating um, the goal of each one of our GPTs. So they're very good at performing their job, and they don't diverge too much because we have narrowed down the expectations of that specific GPT. But still, some hallucinations might happen. That's why it's important to keep testing the answers and also have some human to supervise this. We have this issue with the manual updates. It's not an issue, but it's something that would consume some time. So if you want to really get the best acceptance criteria that's really tailored to your documentation of the product and that will generate you the best test scenarios, you have to iterate a couple times through the agents manually until you get that. Um, After you've updated the agents, they tend to perform better on next tasks. And also, there is this rag that we are using statically because all we can do is upload new documents to our custom GPTs, and those documents will become part of the knowledge base from there onwards. But it's not automatic. It's not that I update my documents in a database somewhere and it gets updated. So yeah, it really would benefit from a real RAG system. And also because the quantity of files, like I said, you have to be careful with the files that you upload in a real case scenario because your product will have lots of documentation and you're not going to be able to upload all of them to your custom GPTs. For the next steps, we can implement the vector database for RAG so we can perform a actual RAG without the limitations of the static RAG that we have at this moment. Something that could be eventually explored but has a lot of costs associated to it is to apply reinforcement learning using LLM as a judge, like I mentioned. So the model can learn a lot from data at once, and then it will just become a lot better in doing any tasks related to that. So you don't have to manually give the updates and change your GPT's instructions for doing that. Finally, um, the best approach that we can use to get away from limitations, like you guys have seen, the agent didn't log in to my ChatGPT account when I was trying to automate the whole pipeline just using this feature. One alternative to using agents from ChatGPT would be to use a agent workflow software. For instance, we have the Lang flow, which allows you to create all this pipeline and just automate the whole process. So it would just work exactly as we've done and would just go, to your flow. And it could also include some steps where it would um, input the feedback from the judges back to your agents and fix the prompt as well. So that can also be explored. So you would have eventually fine tuning with reinforcement learning, but not exactly in a huge model, but in your own agents. So very similar to what we've done manually, but in an automated fashion. And last but not least, I encourage you guys to really look at the reference for more details about any of the information or topics that we discussed in here. Again, this was just a high level view of most of these concepts. So now let's do a quick summary of everything that we explored again. So we started from the basic concepts in which we defined what's BDD, what's the example mapping that we are using to define our acceptance criteria, and why is it so important for software quality assurance? Basically, because if you get the requirements right from the beginning, you have higher chance of delivering what your customer wants without any bugs. We also touched very high level what are the LLM agents or what are the models. We talked about how they excel in natural language comprehension and what they actually do. What are the LLMs doing when you send a prompt? What's coming back? How is it coming back that way? Because of the training, the information it has, the human labelers that contributed to the LLM based model to become an actual assistant. What is the context window and its limitations, and what would be the retrieval augmented generation, RAG. We are also talking about the static RAG alternative that's included in ChatGPT in the custom GPTs for the knowledge base. We talked about the proposal in here that we'll be demonstrating. So the proposal is to basically leverage AI into the process of creating the acceptance criteria accordingly to your software documentation, have a very clearly defined acceptance criteria with high maturity level. And we also talked about how you can update your documentation to keep evolving according to how your system also evolving with the new features that you are adding into it. And also an agent that finally will create the testing scenarios in a high level view so you can fully automated the requirements check. So you can validate if your business behavior is still guaranteed after you've done some new release or some new software updates and etc. Then we went through the demo. Then I've shown you guys what is my documentation that was uploaded to the knowledge base of my agents. And also I just shown you a very interesting file that is this one in which we explored what is the few shot prompting and combining that with the chain of thought. So that basically makes your agent really, really good into performing its task. After that, I manually ran all the GPTs to show you how they work together. Showed you very briefly what you would do to refine the results using the LLM as a judge, just by manually updating the prompts or creating new prompts and sending with the files attached to these GPTs that are able to perform the updates accordingly. That doesn't include the reinforcement learning, it's just a manual alternative to that. We have also explored how you can automate the entire process by using the AI agent that's available now on ChatGPT. And we reached out the conclusions about the results, the limitations, and the next steps. So this is it. I hope you have enjoyed the video. I will put all the links in the description for some other YouTube videos that you can use to go and learn more about the concepts that we've talked about in here, and also for the files and for the agents that I've built. So yeah, let me know if you have got any questions. Just drop something in the comments and I will be happy to try to help. Thank you.